Hello everyone, welcome to my spoiler talk for the Defenders. Finally, after all this time, we've made it. However, a lot happened in the first episode, so I think it's right time to just get straight into it. So this episode starts off with a man fighting a woman. That man is an informant for the Iron Fist, and that woman is Elektra revived, so she's back. And she basically takes him out and kills him, kind of. I mean, he'll die later on. He first needs to give information. And then he gives chase, but loses Elektra. Has a little bit of a fight, punches her away, and then she vanishes. That's what I meant with losing. And the informant says, Iron Fist, go back home, because, you know, we're in the Marvel world. And in the Marvel world, whenever something bad's gonna happen, there is one place where it's highly likely that it's going to happen, called New York. So they go home. Meanwhile, Jessica Jones helps Trish get her car back after it was about to be towed away. And we learned that Jessica hasn't really worked since Kilgrave, and also that she hates the attention that she got for killing Kilgrave. Also, Foggy gets Luke out of prison, and he says he needs to move forward, just like Pop always told him. And then Foggy's like, people call me Foggy, and then he's just like, you let them? And Matthew, because, you know, we need to go over every character immediately. Matthew has a case, and he wins that case by being fantastic, as he always is. And also, he has quit being Daredevil, and he gives the kid a very, not very much of a hopeful speech, but a very depressing speech, let's be honest there. And Danny has nightmares about the people being dead at Kunlun, and then himself is telling him that he is to blame for what happened, which technically is not untrue. And also we have a woman who has the disrobe and learns that she is dying, and we later on learn that she is the leader of the Hand. Our main villain, everyone. Alexandra is her name. So Jessica is about to go to her apartment. She gets out the elevator. However, there's a woman there who wants her help in finding the husband. But Jessica's like, yeah, I don't do that. I don't do that no more. And then when she gets inside of her own house, a voice scrambler tells her to not take that case. Meaning, she takes the case because you don't tell Jessica Jones what to do. Alright? So she's researching stuff, and Malcolm comes in, and he's just like, oh, okay, so you took a case. Also, did you try calling that number back, you know, kind of finding out? And then she's like, yeah, but what if he's smart? And he's like, yeah, but what if the person wasn't smart? What if he was an idiot? And she's like, maybe. So she uses the phone, and turns out he was an idiot. And Jessica Jones heads over to the location where the call was made from, because Malcolm knows a place there that is kind of shady, so she heads over there. Meanwhile, Luke returns home and meets up with Claire, and Misty asks Luke to go for a walk. So he goes with Misty for a walk, and she's like, look, alright, things in Harlem have changed. Also, bad stuff is happening, and the people could kind of use your help, but not in the way of strength, but more in like a mentor-y kind of way. Like, for example, here, look at this car. It is blown up. And that was the brother of Candace from season 1 of your own show. You remember her? She was the one who blamed you for everything because she got paid by Mariah. So instead of, you know, like fixing this stuff, maybe you should go to the final member of that sibling family and go to the brother and maybe, you know, help him. Kind of like Pop used to. Meanwhile, Madame Gao meets up with Alexandra, and she's like, look, the plan is on schedule. And then Alexandra's like, let's speed it up. And Gao was like, let's not. And then it's like, alright, fine. We'll speed it up. Alright? Let's speed it up. Also, here, go finish feeding the birds. Madame Gao just gets put down. It's like immediately knowing, alright, so she is the one who has all the power here. Meanwhile, Matt meets up with Karen, and they talk a little bit about Daredevil not being around anymore, and Daredevil having actually helped the city and stuff like that. She asks him if he misses it. He's like, nope, I closed that, I basically locked that up, and I was like, you know what, we will get a crowbar, and we'll immediately sort that stuff out. Don't you worry about that one. What do you mean? Give me back Daredevil! But later on, he goes over to church, and then that's when we learn, yeah, he was lying, because he does absolutely miss it. So Luke heads over to the final family sibling member, Cole, and he tries to help Cole, but Cole kind of pushes him away. So yeah, that doesn't really work, but he gave it a good try. And Jessica Jones goes over to the location. She doesn't find the person she's looking for. However, she does find explosives instead. And then to end this episode, we have an earthquake that happens. And I thought this episode was overall pretty good. It was really intriguing seeing where everyone is. I really enjoyed that. So on to episode 2. So in the aftermath of the earthquake, Matthew cannot help himself. So when he hears the fact that a shop has been robbed and that the owner is going to kill the people who robbed it, Matthew has to stop it in order to stop the looters from being killed. Simple as that. And then he washes it off. He's like, I shouldn't have done that, but I still did it. Meanwhile, at the Trish talk, we have a geologist who calls in and is like, yeah, this whole earthquake stuff, it's not normal, okay? Look, I'm a geologist, I know this kind of stuff, and she gets cut off because the people upstairs don't want this to be talked about, which is like, oh, the hand influence is also in Trish talk. I didn't know that. That's interesting to see. And Misty questions Jessica, but since they don't really have anything on her, she leaves. However, she does yoink a piece of evidence, and I love how she just is rude to that one officer questioning her the whole time. I love that. That's classic Jessica Jones. But Misty tries to follow, but Jessica Jones slips away. Meanwhile, we go to the... Oh, boy, here we go. This bad part. Ugh, yeah. Look, I don't hate Iron Fist. A lot of people do. A lot of people don't like him. I am not one of them, and the reason for that is this show mainly... Because here it begins, the downfall of Iron Fist. Like, he doesn't get saved until his own show season 2. Or, well, I guess Luke Cage season 2. But we have the fact that he's like, it's my responsibility to take out the hand. And this is what he's going to be yapping on about for the whole show, by the way. He's going to tell that it's his responsibility. Because Colleen is like, maybe we have allies. And he's like, no, I have to do this. Because I am the man with the glow-up hand. I got the glow-in-the-dark fist. Which means I'm supposed to be the one to stop. It's like, oh, come on. However, Colleen has found a lead, and also Luke wants to find information, and he knows a place. However, the people have not been using that place in a long time. So Claire tells him the new place where they go. So he goes to that rat hole in order to find some answers. Meanwhile, with Alexandra, she's listening to some music, and then Gao comes in and is like, look, we've hit a wall. And then she's just like, all right, break it down. It's like, yeah, we can't. And then Alexander's like, well, that wall may not be a wall after all. And then Gao's like, it looks like a wall. Yeah, but it's not a wall. Door. And the door needs a key. And what's the thing that they value most? Right, the glow-in-the-dark fisting. That's what they, So, basically, Iron Fist is the key to everything. So, look, Danny saying that he is important is entirely true. He just needs to stop talking about that, okay? Meanwhile, Jessica goes through history, basically, searching for a company that has a shell company that dates back all the way to 1810. And when she asked the worker there how to go back even further than 1810, the worker's like, look, you gotta go over to this place, but you need an appointment beforehand. And then the wench appears. No, even in this show, we see the wench. But she appears, and she's like, I can get you an appointment, but you need to stop doing this stuff because it'll look bad for me. Because obviously, the wench only cares about herself. And obviously, Jessica Jones ain't just gonna quit. So, Colleen and Danny go over to the place where they can find the origin of this, or at least the sword maker. So they go inside. Colleen is like, I'm in heaven. Because she loves the sword. And then they see the sword, the special sword. And yeah, it turns out it's been sharpened because it's been used. So they see a bit of blood. They follow it and see a room full of dead people. Welcome everyone to the Chaste. That's at least my assumption. This is the Chaste. They're all dead. We learned that later on that the Chaste is dead. But the fact that later on we also see one of the members of the Chaste tied up. And we know that one person was taken away. I'm just gonna say, yeah, the Chaste. And we learned that these people have a connection to Kunlun. So that's nice. Also, Luke goes to the location. He finds Turk. He asks Turk some questions. And Turk's like, alright, look, there's a guy with a white hat. He's the bad guy, okay? So Luke's like, alright, if you're lying to me, I will come back here and you won't like me. And Turk's like, I don't like you now. So the next part we'll tackle one at a time, okay? So starting off, we'll go with the Jessica Jones stuff, and then we'll go to the Luke Cage stuff, and Iron Fist stuff. So, we actually don't start the Jessica Jones stuff off with Jessica, but instead with the wench, who tells Foggy, hey, look, there's a freelancer who is kind of connected to us. Her name's Jessica Jones. If she gets into trouble, take care of it, alright? And then Foggy's like, but she's not in trouble now? And the wench is like, no, she will be. So Foggy, which we learn later on, enlists the help of Matt, which is, we'll get back to that. So Jessica goes back home and she finds that her door is open. So she goes inside and they find John Raymond. Also, the first episode was titled the H word, as in hero, and this one is called Mean Right Hook. So she goes in, no, so Jessica goes inside and she finds Raymond holding Malcolm hostage. And then Raymond is like, what if you ruined everything, okay? Are you working for them? And Jessica's like, who? And then, you know, we get that back and forth. Them, who? Them, who? Basically like that. And then we see a shadow outside the door. And then he becomes entirely afraid. And then Elektra comes in, ready to take him back to where he needs to go. But alright, this thing is kind of difficult to talk about because of the fact that this kind of goes... apparently YouTube doesn't like the word that happens. But he basically does something not so very nice to himself. That means that he can never speak again. And then Elektra leaves. However, she has a little bit of an interaction with Jessica Jones. And Jessica follows her. However, Elektra vanishes. And then Misty basically takes Jessica back to the precinct. So, let's go back to Luke and Danny. So Luke goes over to the location of White Hat. He finds it, calls Misty, and is like, hey, yeah, you need to come to this location with a search warrant because you might find some stuff. However, when he sees Cole, he's like, never mind, hangs up the phone, goes after the van, and basically in the van is the cleanup crew for what happened to the chase. So the kids are basically cleaning up the chase. Colleen and Danny come out. They fight the guys. And then Luke Cage comes in. And then we have a who are you? Who are you? Simple as that. And then we have a fight between Iron Fist and Luke Cage. And this fight is, well, funny to me. Because I kind of see it from Luke Cage's perspective. Which I think is absolutely hilarious. Because you have Danny doing all these like really cool moves on Luke. But Luke is bulletproof. He's got unbreakable skin. So he feels none of it. It's like... it's like just punching him and looks like, come on dude, cut it out, and just slaps him away. It's hilarious. He just slaps him away until at the end of the fight where Danny charges up his glow-in-the-dark fist and punches Luke Cage. However, then the cops arrive, so Luke and Iron Fist leave. And we learn that Alexandra has Stick, who is the reason why I'm saying that room was full of the chase. But yeah, Alexandra has Stick, so that's fun. And Jessica is at the precinct, and she gets questioned. And Jessica's basically like, look, am I here for murder charges? Because if not, you can't really hold me. Also, this stuff is way above your pay grade, and it is a lot more dangerous than, you know, you would like to believe. However, eventually, the door opens up and your king appears and basically shuts everything down. Matthew shows up and he's like, alright, this is over. I'm your attorney now. Done. That's how the episode ends. So we have the interaction between Luke Cage and Iron Fist, and we have the interaction between Jessica Jones and Matthew. I'm very excited about the next episode. Alright, so episode 3. But before we begin with that one, let us talk about something else beforehand. First of all, this episode is titled Worst Behavior. Anyway, why is rich people food always small? I don't know why. I don't get it. It's like she gets delivered food. That's how the episode starts off. And it's like, it's tiny. It's like, why can't she just get like a cheeseburger or something like that? I don't know. Some fries. Why does that always have to be tiny and look all perfect? Look, I don't understand that stuff. And also, White Hat, we learn, is part of the Hand. And this was back in the day when they revived Elektra. So Elektra gets revived and she basically gets groomed by Alexandra, basically, to be the perfect weapon, to be the Black Sky. Because she comes back and Alexandra kind of makes it seem like they brought her back, but purposefully kind of just deleted some memories. At least that's what I got out of it. Anyway, back in present day, Alexandra wants to learn the location of the Iron Fist, but Stick won't talk. And then Elektra enters, and then Stick fights, and he escapes through, the thing that he escapes through. How did he do that? How did he do that? I mean, it looks cool, but like, how did he... you know what? I'm not even gonna question it. This is Stick. He escaped. He cut off his own hand, and now he's gone. Meanwhile, Jessica is basically being rude to Matt, because he starts off being, you know, in the legal terms, and she doesn't really want that. Then he starts to get a little bit more personal with her, in a sense that, obviously, he heard certain things. So he's like, you were talking about the fact that, this is bigger. What do you mean by that? And she's like, I'm not gonna tell you. And it's like, ah, great. So Matt tells her that the cops don't actually have anything on her and she is free to leave. However, her property is still going to be under investigation because that is still where the murder scene happened. So she leaves and Matt follows. Meanwhile, Luke is at home and he's basically recovering from that glow punch. And then he has a little bit of a talk with Claire. Claire kisses him, but Luke is has some pain. And she's like, oh, what happened? And he's like, I got punched by a guy with a glow fist. And also, he was a skinny white boy. And then Claire's like, alright, I need to make a phone call. And then introduces Luke Cage and Iron Fist together. Meanwhile, Jessica knows that she's being followed by Matt. She hides, Matt walks past her, and now she follows him. How though? Matt is the best, like, you cannot hide from Matt. He will always find you. How did he lose Jessica and then allow Jessica to follow him? And also, when he was jumping around, how did he not know that he was being photographed by Jessica? This scene doesn't really make a lot of sense if you look at Daredevil. However, this scene is basically here just as a reason for later on. But I still thought that this scene was a little bit stupid. I like this episode a lot, but the problem is this one scene is like, why though? So, Luke gets brought to Danny, and Danny and Colleen basically talk about Kunlun, and yeah, you lose Luke Cage when you start talking about the mystical stuff. But eventually, it seems like they have a nice conversation when they get left alone. However, the problem is, the way that they go about things, they kind of disagree with, which kind of turns into a little bit of an argument between the two. And look, I support Luke Cage, but not in this argument entirely, because the dangers of the hand is real. And yes, Danny doesn't have to punch everyone that he sees. That is true, okay? You don't always need to punch. But looks like, oh, these people are just trying to feed their families. But they were cleaning up a murder scene. No matter what, that kid is in jail and innocent. Look, he was just trying to make some cash. But the moment that you walk in and you see dead bodies, you should walk away. You don't continue on after that, alright? You walk away. Simple as can be. So they're both right and they're both wrong. That's basically what I wanted to say. However, one thing that Luke says to Danny kind of resonates with him, which is the fact that Danny shouldn't always just use his fist. The dude's rich. Maybe use your power. So Danny decides to use his power instead. Meanwhile, Luke goes over to Cole to get information. However, Cole doesn't really give information. However, later on, he does, after Luke mentions the hand, he does start to kind of give information, because then the tone immediately changes and he's like, hey, can you buy my mom some lottery tickets or scratch off? She really likes that, alright? And tell her that I love her. And then Luke's like, you can trust me. And he's like, I do. So Luke goes, buys the tickets, goes to the mom's house, gives her the tickets. And then when he looks in the box of the scratched off tickets, he finds a big thing of cash. And on it, it says Midland Circle. Meanwhile, Danny goes over to Rand Enterprises. Ward is gone because I guess they didn't have the budget in order to include him in the show. So this woman helps Danny, and they also arrive at Midland Circle. Then Jessica charms her way at the place where John Raymond used to work, since he's now, you know, no longer with us. And she also gets info on Midland Circle. And if you remember from Daredevil Season 2, Midland Circle was a big part of that. So, also, we learned that Cole's gone. R.I.P. the boy. So, Stick arrives at Colleen's, and he's like, where's the fist? Meanwhile, we have the big climax of the episode, because Danny decides to use his power, in a sense, in order to get a surprise meeting with Midland Circle. He goes over there, he basically starts threatening the hand. Then Alexandra walks in, and she's like, look, continue on your speech. So he goes on, and eventually she's like, I am the Iron Fist, at which point it's like, alright, time to take him. So we get a big fight scene. However, Jessica also enters the place, and Matt follows her inside, and basically Matt's like, don't go near this, okay? This is dangerous, because it's the hand. This is dangerous, okay? Just don't. And then a silenced gunshot happens, because the fact that Danny's about to be shot, but he gets the gun away, and then the gun fires off. Matt hears that because of his super hearing. So Matt grabs Jessica's scarf, and he goes off. He rushes his way upstairs through the stairs. Jessica takes the elevator. We don't even know how Luke Cage got up there, but apparently he got up there because as Iron Fist is fighting, Luke busts through the door and helps him. And we get a little bit of the Heroes for Hire team up. Yeah, baby. So they fight their way through while Jessica and Matt go up there. Jessica took the elevator, Matt took the stairs. And then, you know, because Jessica and Luke know each other, they are like, hey, you! However, as they want to leave, Matt's like, there's something here. Something strange. And then Alexandra's like, alright, Elektra, you go. So Elektra gets sent after them. More soldiers show up. Everyone takes care of the soldiers except for Matt, who fights Elektra. However, later on, he realizes that it is Elektra. And also, since we have Daredevil in this show, we have to have a hallway fight. No matter what, whenever Daredevil shows up in something, that specific something needs to have a hallway fight, no matter how small. Even Spider-Man No Way Home had a small hallway fight. If you remember that one, when they go through the building, when Spider-Man's fighting Green Goblin, there is a little hallway fight. It's tiny, but it's still there, so there was hallway. Whenever Daredevil shows up, we must have hallway fight. It has to happen. So we got a nice hallway fight, and they eventually take everyone out, and Matt's about to be killed by Elektra. However, Iron Fist saves him, takes him, and then they get into the elevator, and then Danny's just like, "Who are you people?" And then the episode ends. Man, am I excited. Finally, the Defenders are together. Alright, so episode 4 is called The Royal Dragon, which is where we are hiding out for most of this episode. And the only way we are able to do that is because Danny basically agrees to pay the rent. Can't this guy just come to my house and just offer that for me? This guy in his own show offers everyone free rent. Can he just come to me and do that? It would be nice. And also, he orders a lot of food and also gulps down a lot of food. Also, Jessica Jones figures out that Matt is Daredevil. And Danny basically wants the gang to team up, and then everyone is like, oh no. But by the end, we get a yes. But you know, in the beginning they have to say no, and then later on they say yes. That adds tension. But basically everyone is kind of like only one time outside of Danny. Danny wouldn't mind if this was a recurring occurrence, but sadly enough, Danny, we did not get a season 2, so yeah, it's not gonna work out that way. So as they're all arguing about things, because obviously there has to be arguing, Stick walks in, which Matt is absolutely not happy about, and he basically calls Iron Fist a thundering dumbass. And I thought that was the funniest thing ever. Meanwhile, all 5 fingers of the hand join together. Also, by the way, we learn a bit more about the hand. However, they all call it being like, yeah, no. However, Danny is impressed that Matt actually knows the hand, though. But basically, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage are kind of like, yeah, that's a bit ridiculous, even though these are the people with super strength. But anyway, the 5 fingers of the hand are gonna join together in order to take on the Defenders. Not yet, but they will. Don't worry about that one. Well, 4 fingers. We learned that Bakudo was one of the fingers. And last time we checked, I mean, his body disappeared. So he might not be dead. But for the moment, the characters think that he's dead. So the 4 fingers of the hand will join together in order to fight. And Jessica wants to leave, and Stick tells her to sit down, and then she's gone. I love that interaction. Stick's like, sit down! And then the next scene is just like her opening a door and walking away. Luke tries to convince her to stay, which I actually find weird because Jessica was the one who convinced Matt to stay early on. And then we get the whole fanboying about the fact that Matt is Daredevil. But then she leaves, and now Luke has to stop her. But Luke can't stop her because Jessica just leaves. And she goes back home. Also, the fact that Matt knows Elektra is something that he keeps from the group. And Stick also keeps from the group. Might come back to bite them though. So at home, Jessica learns that the documents from the past, because she went through till like 1810 or something like that, but she learns that those documents were all signed by the same person because they have the exact same handwriting. Get it? Handwriting? And also, throughout this whole episode, Matt has been on edge, basically. And we learn that that is because of the fact that Elektra is back. And he wants Elektra to be fully back. Stick is like, no, the woman I trained and you loved is dead. Okay? This is just basically her body walking around, but she's not there, okay? So Jessica heads over to the wife, and she's like, look, alright, the thing that I found out just keeps getting weirder and weirder. So, what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna give you police protection. And she's like, I thought you already did because that guy. And she's like, so did he show you a badge? And she's like, no. So Jessica heads over to the guy, interrogates him, and eventually gets information. Meanwhile, as the gang is talking, I like how Iron Fist wants Luke Cage and him to team up, aka Heroes for Hire. However, Luke is 100% against it and literally just calls this a one-time only deal. I love this episode because of the interaction between the characters. Anyway, a van is outside, and they're basically listening in on the van, and they don't hear the fact that Alexandra just comes in and just sits down. So Stick smells her, they turn around, and then she basically wants the Iron Fist to join her. And he's like, yeah, no. So then Elektra walks in, and Alexander's like, alright, go ahead and attack. But before that can happen, Jessica just pushes a car into her and then walks in and says, who missed me? And I couldn't help but raise my hand and say, I missed ya. And then I thought the fight would happen in this episode, but sadly enough, no. Take shelter, baby. So in this episode, we have the defenders and they fight their way out. And as they are trying to do that, Madame Gao shoots someone because she shoots a guy of her own, one of her own guys, and is like, we want him alive. I couldn't stop laughing. But they try to fight their way out. They have kind of a plan where it's like, if we work together, we can get out. However, Matt sees Elektra, so he charges after her, leaving the team behind. And it kind of works. He kind of gets her back, but not really. I mean, she even attacks that one guy who will never speak English, I think, throughout this whole show. I don't know his name, but him. That guy, apparently one of the most dangerous ones. She like hits him and then escapes. So as the team is fighting and trying to get out of there, they go outside and Stick has an idea. Let's go through the sewers. So they have a little bit of a sewers escape to the dojo. And this is kind of when things for the head are gonna kind of start falling apart. Also, Luke got caught by Whitehead. At least that is what we are led to believe. But at the dojo, we all get in. They weren't followed. Everything is good. And then someone comes in and everyone is kind of on edge. And Matt can't help but smile. Luke Cage enters and he's like, I got a gift. And apparently he caught White Hat, which one am I gonna call him throughout this whole thing. So as they are interrogating White Hat, the thing is that he calls Danny the dumbest Iron Fist yet, which is like, yeah, he's not wrong. Danny is kind of a dumb Iron Fist though. But meanwhile, with the hand, they learn of the capture of White Hat, and then Alexander's like, don't worry about it, he'll free himself. And I was like, well, let's hope he doesn't get ahead of himself. However, as the defenders are interrogating the guy, he kind of starts threatening the people that they love. So they decide to put the people that they love all together and put them away, kind of like hide them away at the police station, which will potentially be better. And this is kind of when I start, look, Karen has kind of started falling off for me, but this was really like my breaking point, as you could say, where I was kind of just like, please never speak again. And I'll explain myself. Because Matt goes to pick her up. Look, everyone else who gets picked up, everything is fine. But he goes over there to pick her up, and then she's like, you're doing it again. Kind of like, it's like he's on heroin, for example. And it's like, you're using again. It's the dude's Daredevil, and he makes the city a better place. Yet you keep yelling at it like it's a stupid drug addiction. But he eventually convinces her to kind of hide away. And since Danny and Colleen don't really have anyone that they need to put into protection, because really the only one that they have is Ward, and he is gone. We all know that. They get to have a little bit of an action sequence. So they fight a couple of hand people. However, then it is revealed that Bakudo's back, baby, because he's not dead. And he tries to get Colleen back on their side. However, Colleen will not have any of it, so he cuts Colleen's stomach, and afterwards Luke Cage comes in and saves her, and then Bakudo leaves. By the way, that leaving sequence is kind of weird, because the gang is basically looking at Colleen, except for one, who is still looking at Bakudo. And then when the camera turns around, Bakudo's gone, but it looks like Luke Cage has been looking at Bakudo the whole time, so he saw him vanish into thin air. Also, Stick wants Matt to be the leader of the defenders. Understandable. He is probably the smartest one there. He's basically our Captain America in that sense. Because even though he started it kind of like Iron Man is not really a guy to lead. Captain America is more the guy to lead. But Matt doesn't really want that. So Jessica goes to get Trish. She gets Trish, however, then the hand kind of attacks, so Jessica tries to get her away, but then they get attacked by that only Japanese-speaking man. I think he speaks Japanese. I forgot what the subtitles said, but I'm just gonna say Japanese. If I'm wrong, comment it down below and yell at me for that. But they are saved by Daredevil. Matthew suits up as Daredevil and actually saves them. It's like, my boy, Matthew. I was so happy to see Daredevil. 5 episodes, but finally we get some Daredevil action. So they put everyone at the police precinct. Misty wants to know what's going on, and basically everyone is like, yeah, don't ask, okay? I mean, Luke tells it to her, but then Colleen later on tells it to her as well, where it's like, the more you know, the more danger you will be, and also you probably won't even understand. I think we are just making things up, which we are not, trust me. Even though I would have just been like, you ever heard of immortal ninjas? Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Immortal ninjas from heaven. There you go. That is a perfect segue. And it's like, let's see her reaction at that point. Because at that point, you've basically explained everything. Kunlun is in heaven. They want to, you know, they don't die. And also the fact that they're ninjas. It's perfect, right? So, the gang goes back to interrogate White Hat. And Matt, this time as Daredevil, interrogates him. However, he lets slide a little bit too much about the fact that he knows Elektra. So the gang isn't really happy about the reveal that Matt kept Elektra's secret in that sense. Meanwhile, back with the Hand, we have the fact that the Hands aren't really happy. First of all, they only have 4 out of the 5 fingers. But they aren't really happy about the fact that the way that Alexandra has been running things. And also the whole focus on the black sky. They're just not really happy about that kind of thing. Because of the fact that the black sky is someone. Also, I like how they are like, oh, by the way, the Daredevil is now also with them. It's like, so they don't know that Matt's Daredevil? Fantastic. But we have a kind of a little mutiny, but not really. Meanwhile, back with the Defenders, White Hat, because of the commotion that is happening, he gets free and he holds Iron Fist hostage until Stick cuts off his head. And then the episode ends with Elektra visiting Matt's place and sleeping in his bed. So, in episode 6, called Ashes, Stick learns the true reason why they need Danny and tells it to the rest of the gang because of what White Hat was saying. And that is the fact that Danny is the key to a lock. And when the gang learns that, they want to kind of keep Iron Fist away from the whole ordeal, but he ain't having any of it. So we basically have mainly a Daredevil versus Iron Fist fight with little bits of Jessica and Luke in there as well. And we also have the thing that the Avengers movies actually do, where Thor's hammer hits Captain America's shield and it causes a shockwave. Yeah, when Danny punches Luke, it also causes a shockwave. Weird that it didn't happen the first time, but I guess this time it was the chest, so maybe that's why. Meanwhile, with Elektra, she's having flashback of Matthew, and basically she starts to remember everything. So the plan is now simple. Matt and Jessica are gonna go over to the architect's wife in order to get more information, and Luke Cage stays to guard Danny with Stick. So Stick decides to package up the head and send it over to the Hand. And when they open that package, they're not really all that happy, but Alexandra also isn't really all that sad. She's like, oh well, damn shame. Anyway, so Jessica and Matt visit the architect's wife, which probably is what I should have called him from the beginning, but I forgot. However, the mommy ain't home, but the daughter is, so they instead have a little bit of a talk with her. And when they are talking, Jessica decides to tell a little bit of a story because they're not really getting through her mind. So Jessica has a different idea. She's like, look, I had a friend once, and his dad was a boxer. And it's like, oh god, she looked up Matthew. And basically tells his backstory to her. And that kind of gets her to open up a bit more. And she kind of starts to talk about the fact that her dad, once the plans for Midland Circle kind of came into the frame, her dad started to drift away from the family more and more. And the only thing he really did was work, or he was sitting at his piano. And then Matt's like, wait a minute, that could be something. So he goes over to, he's like, can I play a little bit? So he starts playing the keys a little bit. He just starts hitting the keys until and Jessica's like, look man, we should just probably leave. And he's like, no, give me a little second. And then he hits one key and it's like, something's blocking this key. So they open it up and they find the plans to Midland Circle and they go back. Meanwhile, Elektra visits her own grave and then gets picked up by Alexandra. So, back with the Danny watching. We have some nice moments between Luke Cage and Iron Fist, and I actually really like them together. We got some nice moments with them. Stick is just meditating, which will lead to bad stuff, but I do like the story. I also really like Luke Cage, mainly the actor, but also just like really Luke Cage, because Luke is like, so tell me that story about that dragon again. So Danny starts waffling off about that story, and he's like, I wasn't serious. And then later on, he's like, all right. So a dragon, huh? Molten heart. That must have hurt. So they start to form more of a bond. And it's like, man, I'm so sad that the Netflix stuff just all got canceled, because I would have liked to see them team up in like a Heroes for Hire show. Would have been really cool. However, Stick decides that there's a third option, because we have two options basically. Either we hand over Iron Fist to the Hand, or we keep him safe from the Hand. However, Stick has figured out a third. So, as he is basically creating incense in order to meditate, I guess, he starts blowing that stuff into Luke Cage's face, which knocks him out, so that Stick can go back to doing what Stick does. When something goes wrong, he starts to kill the first person he kind of sees. And that would be like what he did back in season 2 of the Daredevil, where he wanted to kill Elektra. He now wants to kill Danny. And it's like, dude, what is wrong with you? Just stop murdering everything. However, this happens when Jessica and Matt are walking back. Also, Jessica gives Matt a compliment, so that is nice. Matt says that, you know, this is the first time that she's nice to him. If I was Matt, I would have been like, I'm almost starting to think you actually like me. I would have said something like that. It would have been funnier. But I like the fact that the team is finally really like forming a bond. However, Matt hears the commotion and he rushes inside, and Jessica goes as well. So Stick tries to kill Danny. However, Elektra then jumps him, and they start to have a little bit of a fight that he loses. And then Matt comes in and he's like, please don't, I love you, woman. And then she's like, hey, Matthew, and stabs Stick to death. Fights off the rest of the gang. Somehow knocks Luke Cage out with a kick to the face, which I found a little bit strange, but whatever. And then she takes Danny and leaves. Meanwhile, with the Hand, yeah, they're still not really on the same page. However, the Japanese guy, whose name I still don't remember, goes over to Alexandra to kill her, until Elektra brings Danny. At which point then, I guess now everyone's once again on the same team. So Alexandra is like, look, I'm the best, okay, my leadership is great, yada yada yada, until Elektra stabs her to death with the Raphael weapons, which I forgot what they're called, but size maybe? Maybe like, but anyway, she kills her. Oh well, not my problem. I mean, look, I will say this. She's not really a compelling villain at all. They didn't really spend much time on her. They spent more time on Elektra, if anything. They didn't really spend time with Alexandra at all. It's just like, oh no, she's dying. It's like, oh no, I don't care though. So I don't really care that she's dead. For me, the threat was always the fact that the Hand, in order to get what they need, are going to level the city or cause a Chernobyl, which we learned earlier was also caused by the Hand. But they're gonna cause something bad to happen, so we need to stop the Hand. The fact that Alexandra's the leader didn't really bother me, and now that she's dead, it also doesn't really bother me. But basically, Elektra takes over, and she's like, any questions? And I have one. Why? So the gang wakes up at the precinct, and to be honest, the cops really just want answers out of them, and they are not really working with the cops at all. Also, this episode is called Women in the Jailhouse, and it smells an awful lot like fish around here. And we learn why Elektra did what she did. She took over the Hand, kind of, because of the fact that she wants the substance. And I guess that means that she now officially has a fear of death. And also, Matthew is done saying sorry for who he is to Karen, who I don't really like, because she keeps being an annoying person. It's like, let's make a little bit of a pretend situation for Matthew right now. Let's pretend Matt is gay, and Karen is trying so hard to make Matt straight. That is wrong, right? Because she is changing who he really is, who he was born as, basically. Let's be honest here. Matthew was born to be Daredevil from the moment that he was born. If there is a god out there, that's the destiny he had ready for Matthew. But she doesn't want him to be that way. She wants him to change. That's the way that I kind of see it. It's wrong. So, Elektra takes Danny down to the door, which we actually get to see. It's a nice looking door, nonetheless. And she basically is like, look, alright, the Iron Fist closed this one, and the only other thing that can open it is another Iron Fist. Also, I killed Alexandra. I basically cut the strings off of my master. Ultron will, no. Just like Ultron, there are no strings on me kind of thing. And, yeah, you can work with me. We'll get the substance. Everyone will be fine. Don't you worry about that. Who cares about the hand, the chase, and whatever else? However, Danny's not really having it, so he starts to have a bit of a fight scene with Elektra, which he is losing. This guy is supposed to be good at fighting, ain't he? Meanwhile, the gang tries to figure out a way to escape, you know, like what to do next. Can we escape? Can we not escape? We need to do something. And then Foggy knocks on the door, and he's like, look, man, I brought you to change of clothes, alright? Look, I know you gotta do what you gotta do. Here's a change of clothes, alright? Family comes first. And he leaves. And Matt opens it up and it's like, oh, it's the suit. Oh, Foggy, how nice. And now they have a plan of escape, which is specifically escape. So they punch a hole through the wall and escape. However, they have no way to get to Midland Circle because, well, they don't really have a vehicle on hand. No one has, like, super speed or can call in a jet or anything like that. We're just basically regular people with powers that do not allow us to get to Midland Circle fast. And we ain't got no wallets, which means we can't take a cab or anything like that. However, Jessica Jones has a metro ticket, so we ride the metro over there. And then Jessica steals a bum's beer and drinks it fully. So they arrive at Midland Circle, and Matt goes for a change of clothes. And basically, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage are like, are you ready for this? And then say, yeah, maybe. Both of them say that. And then Matt comes out in his Daredevil suit and Jessica is like, oh, there it is again. Man, I love this, like, the personalities being so different from each other. Yeah, I feel like Danny would fanboy out at seeing Daredevil in his suit. But Jessica's like, oh god, there it is again. Look away, children, look away. So, now they need a way to get in. However, we learned that the last time Luke Cage went in through the parking lot. That's how he got in behind everyone else's back. Which is like, how though? I mean, isn't there supposed to be security around here? So they go into the parking lot. However, we have Madame Gao, the Japanese guy, and Bakudo waiting for them. So we have a bit of a fight scene at the same time that Elektra is fighting Danny. And Elektra is basically fighting Danny so that she can rile him up so that he will use the Iron Fist. Which works, let's be honest here. And we also have Colleen, who has escaped the police station as well. Which, once again, how? But that's not even the biggest how. We'll get a bigger how later on. And she joins in on the fight, which is why I like to say that Colleen is the secret fifth member of the Defenders. You could count Misty Knight as a sixth member, but because she's so far in the dark, I feel like we could count Colleen, but not Misty. If there was a season 2, maybe we could have included Misty. But eventually, the three escape. And then Misty Knight comes in and she's like, alright, look, how long do you want me to hold them off? Basically 100% supporting Luke Cage, which is a smart thing to do. So they go further into the building and Misty Knight just stands there. The cops arrive. Also, Luke Cage basically took a pipe and just wrapped it around the door so that it can't be opened anymore. And they go further into the building. And now we need a plan. Well, the plan is to bring the building down because if you think that it's kind of strange that Colleen was able to escape the precinct, well, what if I told you she did it with explosives? Yes, she escaped with explosives. How? But we have the plan, and that is to bring the building down. And while this is happening, Danny tries to attack Elektra with the Iron Fist. It doesn't work. She lures him to the door, and I use her weapons in order to grab his fist and slam it into the door. And it opens up, revealing Dragon Bones. Now then, next up we have the final episode of the show, titled, appropriately, The Defenders. Here we are, boys, to the finale of The Defenders. So, this episode, we basically learned that the way that the city will be destroyed is by removing the substance that will eventually kill the city. And the cops learn that the explosives have been stolen, so that is fantastic. Also, on a more positive note, we do have a little nice moment between Trish and Karen. And this kind of makes me wish that there was more interaction between the side characters of each of the shows. Just a thing that I kind of was missing in this. And we have the plan. The main characters go down to the hole to fight, while Claire takes care of the explosives. And Colleen wants to go down there to fight as well. And then Claire's like, but what if they come for me? I need some backup. So Colleen agrees to give backup to Claire, which she most certainly needs. Because when they go and do the explosive thing, Bakudo appears. So Colleen fights Bakudo while Claire plants the explosive. And the main gang gets downstairs. And initially, Murakami, which is actually the name of the Japanese guy, he wants to kill Iron Fist. However, Elektra convinces him not to, and instead use him as basically a bargaining chip. So as the main gang is heading down, Luke Cage comes up with an idea that Jessica isn't gonna like. And that idea is basically Luke Cage and Daredevil are gonna climb out and get on top of the elevator while Jessica stays inside and basically appears like she's alone. So she comes out, it's like, don't worry, it's just me, alright? I didn't come to fight alone. And then Daredevil and Luke Cage pop out and they fight and free Danny. And then Jessica goes over to him and then she's like, let's go, Ironclad. It's Iron Fist. So we have the big final fight. Meanwhile, back with Bakudo. Meanwhile, Misty eventually takes another door to go inside the building, which is like, really? The cops didn't think to check the second door that was like 2 feet away from the first? Alright, that's bad. But she goes inside, and she eventually gets to the location. Also, before that, she calls Claire, and Claire's like, yeah, we got explosives, and then basically hangs up. So Misty comes in, she wants to help, so she shoots Bakudo. However, Bakudo somehow survives it, probably because of the substance. Because I think it was stated that their heads needed to be fully cut off in order for actually to kill them. Or maybe they have to sustain so much damage that they can't really regenerate anymore. However, we get finally payoff to Luke Cage Season 1. Because it's Luke Cage Season 1, they were teasing us, boys. They were teasing us with something. So Bakudo finally chops off Misty's arm. Finally, they've been teasing that. I mean, everyone is like, oh my god, no. I was like, yes! Finally! Because in Season 1, they kept talking about her arm or putting her arm in danger. In that sense, like chopping it off. But they finally did it in the Defenders. Fantastic, that robot arm will be yours, Misty. But they take care of Bakudo and they set the explosives. However, Bakudo, sadly enough, did set off the timer on the explosives. So that's not really a good thing. So as the gang is fighting and basically has defeated everyone, Matt tells them to escape and that he'll join them later. And then they're like, no, wait, don't. And then he's like, I gotta try to get through to Elektra one more time. Luke Cage is like, are you on this again? No. And then Luke Cage is like, this again? Really? But they eventually agree. They leave. But Matt pulls Danny towards him and he tells him something and allows him to leave. There are 2 things he told him. Number 1, the detonator has been set off. And we'll get to number 2 later on. So Matt tries to convince Elektra. It does kind of work, but also not really. But also they do share a kiss at the end, so maybe it worked. While the others are trying to use the elevator to escape. However, the hand attacks the elevator, and they have to fight their way out. And eventually the elevator is about to come down. Also, they kick Murakami off the thing and he falls down to his almost death. However, as the elevator is about to fall, Jessica Jones jumps and grabs the cable and holds on to it in order to save them. And they start climbing out. So as they are ready to escape, Danny kind of reveals the truth and that they need to go back for Matt. However, then the cops join in, so that doesn't really work out. So everyone leaves. And the explosives go off. And Danny tells them that Matt never planned to escape. Because the other thing that he told Danny was protect my city. And so the building collapses down into the hole. And now both Elektra and Matthew have perished. Sadly enough, R.I.P. the legend. So, now that the day is saved, everyone moves on with their lives. Trish goes back to Trish talk. Foggy and Karen mourn the loss of Matt. You have the fact that Foggy also took care of all the legal troubles, so that's good. Jessica opens up Alias investigations again, so she goes back to work. And Danny takes over from Matt as the new protector of New York. Which, this is how you do, like, passing the torch in that sense. You don't just turn Danny into Daredevil. You just have a new hero who takes over the duties of Daredevil. Iron Fist takes over the duties of Daredevil. There you go. Simple as that. And I am very excited about Season 2 of Iron Fist. Because overall, I've liked the development that Danny has had. However, it's an annoying development, if to say the least. Because he starts off annoying, and by Season 2 of Iron Fist, he's a lot better. However, because of how annoying he was in this Iron Fist Season 1 and in this show, to me, he wasn't that annoying. But that's the main opinion of most of the people. They didn't even give Iron Fist a shot in Season 2. And that is... No, and then we end it with the fact that Matt is still alive, boys. Which also could mean that Elektra is still alive. But Matt's alive. And he is lying on a bed with a nun next to him. And then when he's about to wake up, the nun is like, get Maggie. And Maggie is Matthew's mummy. If you watch the Daredevil show, which obviously you have. So that is the end of the Defenders. And what did I overall think of it? Well, I really enjoyed it. I didn't think it was perfect, sadly enough. I wish it was. but I also get why, and that's because they're playing in the playground of the MCU. Now, whether you could say that this is canon or not is your own opinion. I mean, now it's been officially canonized, but back then, the people who worked on these shows basically went into these shows with the full understanding that they were part of a cinematic universe. So obviously, they can't go too big, otherwise you kind of mess with the movies a bit. Because it's like, oh, but why weren't the Avengers there? I think overall, like, the threat is there. They've set up the hand as being a big threat. However, that plan is basically just, look, we just want the substance and then go to Kunlun. That's all. Which isn't really as grand of a plan as they kind of made it out to be. They kind of made it out to be like that it was going to be way worse than it actually was. So I can see the problem that people have. However, I personally still enjoyed it. I like all of these characters. Iron Fist is the weakest, but that's obvious. However, I like all of them, and I love to see them team up. Their personalities clash, and I wish we got more of this, but sadly enough, we couldn't have gotten another season of the Defenders before getting Daredevil Season 3 anyway. And when we got Daredevil Season 3, we basically learned that everything else was dead. It was all dead, so we were not gonna get. I mean, maybe they could have squeezed in a Defenders season just to kind of like end it off, but I don't really think so. And it also kind of doesn't really work with itself because of how late Daredevil Season 3 takes place. We don't really get to see the other characters kind of react to Matthew's return, which would have been good in the Defender Season 2, but sadly enough, we didn't get that. But like I said, overall, I thought this series was great, actually. I really did. I definitely think it's worth to check out, and also I count this as more of a Daredevil season than anything else, because with the other shows, it's not really as important. I would say the most important one is Iron Fist, but it is really important for like Daredevil. So this is a must watch for the Daredevil saga, even though I personally think it's a must watch no matter what, because it's a really good show. So with that being said, comment down below and tell me what you guys thought of the Defenders, which I'm not gonna count as a season because it's just well, a mini-series basically. But what did you guys think? Comment down below. I personally enjoyed it, but maybe you guys didn't. Also, tell me why you didn't, because I would like to know. Everyone has different opinions. We could all disagree and still be pals, can't we? But with that being said, thank you all so very much for watching, and I do hope you guys have enjoyed. And if you did, please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, if you're not already, turn on notifications, and don't forget to check out my Let's Play channel, link in the description and at the end of the video. And if you guys thought that the fighting between Daredevil and Iron Fist was something, you haven't seen anything yet, because we're about to go full on Civil War with the next Captain America movie. Bye!